Aaron Mauger is out of a job. His contract's not been extended with the Highlanders. He's not been sacked. He's just not been given a new contract. They gave him a 3-year deal initially, which I thought was a pretty decent stint actually. After he'd already lost the job back in England, and he saw out the 3 years, and he has not had his contract renewed. I've written his results from the previous seasons on the board. We'll go there in a second, but essentially what he said is results basically show the quality of the structures you've put in place, and they haven't hit the levels they aspired to, and he takes responsibility for that as head coach. So how bad or good have the results been under Aaron Mauger? 2018 Super Rugby, they have a positive record, 10 wins and 6 losses. They finished 6th overall. Remember, it's the top 8 teams that qualify for Super Rugby's knockout stages under that format. So they have an away quarterfinal, and I think they lose to the Waratahs in that one. Then 2019, the record is a lot less positive. They finish with fewer wins than they did losses. 6 wins, 7 losses, 3 draws. I think one of them is that cancelled game. So they scrape in to the playoffs, last spot, and I believe it was that last week that got them through, because all the things that needed to go their way went their way. So they absolutely scraped through, and they had to play the Crusaders, who end up going to win the competition. So the Highlanders are out in the quarterfinal again, but there's a marked drop in the results there. And the 2020 season before it got canned due to the pandemic, 1 win, 1 draw, and 4 losses. It was going pretty appallingly before the pandemic, so the season's cancelled. They finish on the log 11th. It wasn't pretty reading for the Highlanders. For Super Rugby Aotearoa, they were predicted to be the bottom team by a mile, so they actually kind of overperformed, but the Chiefs, I was going to say cheaters, the Chiefs underperformed big time. The Chiefs finished winless. The Highlanders, with their 3 wins and 5 losses, are still only 4th. There was no playoffs in Super Rugby Aotearoa. It was just a log, like a league system, so however you finished is however you finished, and they finished 4th, still in negative territory, but if anything, they actually exceeded expectations based on this being the precursor to that. So yeah, you can see the results are going the wrong direction. There could be a number of reasons for that. Obviously, they lost quite a sizable chunk of guys in the playing staff. But I look back to Jamie Joseph's time in charge of the Highlanders, and he never started off with a squad full of world beaters from memory. Correct me if I'm wrong. I do remember the Highlanders one season signing a bunch of big names from memory. It was like Ma'anonu, Tony Woodcock, Brad Thorne, and they finished appallingly badly. And then when they started to get these guys who were maybe guys who'd been rejected by other teams, and Jamie Joseph worked his magic, he was able to get those guys to be a Super Rugby title-winning side and get some of those guys to actually get All Blacks call-ups. I haven't gone to check everyone's history, so do correct me if that's wrong, but that's the gut feeling I've got from Jamie Joseph's reign, whereas it seems like the Highlanders under Aaron Mauger, they're just not tracking in the right direction, and as he said himself, very responsibly, the coach has to take the head coach has to take the fall for that, and so he has. So, yeah, he definitely tried to change their style, because traditionally in the previous years, the Highlanders were a team that didn't like to play with the pill. Their possession stats were always horrendously low, and if you just look at traditional stats, man, possession and territory, these guys are doing terribly. It didn't matter. They were a team that had guys like Luke Whitelock who would top the tackle stats every year. They would tackle opposition attacks into submission, turn them over, and hit them on the break. And it worked. I don't think there was a team that played quite that style. They were unique in that facet of the way they played the game. They had the guys to play that way, and they set up the team to make the most of that. They switched to being more of a possession-based team, and maybe 3 years is not enough to make that shift. Maybe 3 years. I mean, I like to think by the 3rd year you're starting to get it right, and by the 3rd year it was starting to go really wrong. Because first year, these aren't really your players. These are the previous coach's players. So by 3rd year, most Super Rugby contracts are not that long. You should be able to start getting in the guys you wanted to play. There was also a few other things like Josh Ioane they started playing him at 12 during this time, and it just seemed bizarre. I mean, I always defer to like former All Blacks. You know your stuff more than any of us armchair fans, but it just seemed like a big old mistake, and they corrected that for Super Rugby Aotearoa when he came back from injury. But yeah, there was just some bizarre decisions. But yeah, trying to change the style of play maybe needed more time. Maybe you just need to build your team around the players you've got and play to your strengths rather than necessarily the coach dictates a game plan and expects the players to follow it. I think Eddie Jones has talked about that before, getting the best out of the players you've got. So it takes a special coach to be able to actually, make the game plan that fits the players rather than necessarily make the players fit the game plan. But yeah, I mean, in previous years, Tony Brown had the Highlanders. They were 11 wins and 4 losses, a pretty good record. Jamie Joseph the previous year, 11 wins, 4 losses, quarterfinal with Tony Brown, semi-final with Jamie Joseph. So, yeah, for the team to be tracking this way, you can kind of understand why the Highlanders management have made this call. Yeah, as rough as it is to see somebody get the boot. They've still got Tony Brown, Clark Dermody, Ricky Flutie on the books. So it may be one of those guys that will take over. I'm sure Highlanders fans would like to see Tony Brown back in charge, but we'll have to wait and see. Apparently they're in no rush. They're planning for likely another Super Rugby Aotearoa next year back in Highlanders country, so we'll see what kind of decision they make. I know Mark Hammett's also left, and I don't think Highlanders fans will be shedding any tears over that one. I'm not sure he was a very popular coach. From my impression, based on you Highlanders fans who comment on my videos on this channel, I don't think Aaron Mauger was that popular a coach either, so I'm not sure how sad or ecstatic you guys are going to be, but do let us know in the comments. But yeah, that's it. He's out of a job, and we wait and see who takes over. We don't get that many changes of the guard in terms of Super Rugby coaches. It's not like English football where you're having a bad season and you get sacked halfway through. He's seen out his contract, and it's just not being renewed, so we'll have to wait and see how things go. Anyway, you guys let me know your thoughts, and yeah, I'll talk to you again soon. See you later.